Skylar Bear here with Mustard Seed Faith Investments. And I wanted to spend a little time today to talk about what it's like to write a book and to self-publish a book. So recently I wrote and self-published a blueprint for the day, starting it God's way, which was such an amazing experience. And I've had quite a few people since they've read the book and since they've known that I've written one ask, what it was like and what's the process. And we're very curious about it. So that's why I wanted to do this video to kind of share what my experience was and kind of walk you through step by step what that's like. And hopefully someone watches this and this really helps you to decide if you want to write a book or if you're already in the process, what it looks like to actually get that published. So I'm going to start out kind of with how that worked for me and kind of the process, and then I'll go through the actual self-publishing process and kind of show you some examples. So about last summer, the Lord started putting on my heart to write a book. And I had been following the plan that I write about in a blueprint for the day, where I read specific scripture each day, wake up very early in the morning, start my day with the Lord. And those specific scriptures I was journaling on, and they were very much affecting my day in such a positive way and really life-changing. And the Lord wanted me to write a book on that. And so when I started to think about what that would be like, I already had my journal entries and stuff I'd already written, so I wasn't starting from scratch. But if you are starting from scratch, I think that's something to where if you just grab a journal and start to write down ideas on what you want to write, I think that's a great place to start. But for me, this was really a God idea for me, and I'd already started journaling and already kind of had in my mind what I could do based on it was something I was doing each and every day. But the next thing I would really suggest you to do is once you know what you're going to be writing on is to grab a journal. And on that journal, keep it with you wherever you go. And whenever you get ideas, to start putting them in a bullet point format. If you think of paragraphs or certain things you want to write about, start writing that down. Don't worry about formatting or grammar or what that looks like. That stuff you'll deal with in the end. Just worry about getting the words down on a page. And then one suggestion that I found online when I kind of searched how to write a book on Google was to start putting things into paragraph format, or not paragraph, but in a chapter format. And so start laying out your ideas in chapters. And that can very much range from 4 to 6 chapters to 30 to 40, depending on what you're doing. It's really how you want the reader to read it. Do you want them to have quick little nuggets, or do you want them to kind of be engaged in a long, 15 to 20 pages of information? Now, for me, it was more quick nuggets, and mainly because my book is based off of a lot of different verses and how reading those each day and the application for them. So mine's about 15 to 20 chapters based on that. So once you have that, then when you keep that journal with you, then when you have ideas, you just start writing it down. And when you get those into paragraphs and bullet points forms into those chapters, that's when you can transfer that into a Word document. I say Microsoft Word because all 5 companies that I reached out to all said they wanted the manuscript, is what they call it, your book, in Microsoft Word. There are a few different options out there that you can do it in some pretty cool programs and platforms that people have created, some tech companies, but everyone that I talked to wanted in Microsoft Word. So I opened up Microsoft Word and put the chapters down and then just started filling in the words once I, kind of had that inspiration or knew what I wanted to write. One suggestion I'll tell you here is do not worry about grammar or about sentence structure at the beginning. Just get your thoughts and ideas down. The grammar and the flow is something that you can come back and edit in the future. So kind of once you have that, once you kind of have a big chunk of the book done, that's when I would go look at who you want to go to from a self-publishing. There are a lot of different companies out there. But one thing I found really interesting was that a lot of very famous authors now are starting to self-publish. The reason being is they want more creativity. They want more ownership of their work. And then also I believe that the money is better for them. Now, I didn't write my book for money, so that part didn't matter to me. But I wanted to go with a company when I was looking at someone that believed in what I was writing. And since my book is about, your walk with the Lord, I want a company that would believe with me and pray with me. And so after I researched a couple, I ended up talking to a company called Westbow. And Westbow Press is a division of Zondervan and Thomas Nelson. If you've heard of them, they do produce a lot of books, Bibles, and whatnot. Great company. I knew kind of right away with them. They were the ones to go with. The sales guy that I talked to prayed with me, spent probably an hour asking about my book, and then prayed with me and really left the decision like, hey, if you want to do this with us, we would love to. We believe in what you're doing. And so I ended up choosing them. Now, when you choose them, you start to look at all these different options, and it's a little overwhelming at first. I'm going to share my screen here and show you kind of standard what you're looking at. So this is Westbow Press. So you have all these different things you can go through, right? Everything from what they call essential access to a premier connection. You can see these range from $1,300 to 15 grand. Really, the difference here you're going to see is what do you want to do with your book? Do you want a marketing plan with it? Do you want to be able to put it into an like on Audible, an audio book? That's something that they very highly pushed and wanted me to do. I chose not to do that yet. It's maybe something I'll do in the future. But almost every place now has to have that done professionally. It's no longer something you can just do on your own. So that's something I didn't know at the beginning. So something to look into for yourself. But this is Westbow Press. They were great. Like I said, here's the kind of different publishing packages. I'll put the link down here so you can check that out. So once you choose your self-publishing company, they really lay out a plan for you that is really easy to follow. I was actually pretty shocked at how easy it was. I'm going to put up here and kind of show you what the process kind of looks like so you can kind of have a glimpse. This is kind of what that step-by-step looks like. So once you have what you need, you go into what they call your manuscript and you go and submit that. And then from submittal, they'll ask you for like, hey, how do you want your book to look like? How many pages do you want it? Do you want it in a hardback? Do you want it in paperback? And those are all decisions you're just gonna have to make on your own. I think for me, it was my wife and I talked a lot about how do I like the feel of a book in my hands, and I like that paperback, so that's kind of what I went with. It's still able to have in hardback, but it was meant for paperback. So you'll go through here and have your submission. You'll go through all of this. You'll go through, what do you want the front cover to look like? As you can see in mine, this picture, I'm blessed to have a beautiful wife that is an amazing photographer. So she took the picture for the front of my book and then also took my author photo, which goes on the back. So if you don't have someone in your family that takes photos, it is something you can go do professionally. They also had a lot of options of free images you could use for the front cover. Then you kind of go in the big next step after you go through all that is the editorial services. And the editorial thing is something that I wish I would have known more about at the beginning. So I have a couple suggestions here. One is when you first kind of get your words on paper into Word in a format that is actually readable for somebody, I would suggest two things. I would suggest first, you put it in front of someone who's close to you, someone who knows you really well, knows what you're trying to portray in your book. For me, that was my spouse. So she read that and she gave me some great feedback. And then I gave it to someone who knows me but isn't super close to me. And so they were able to give me a little bit more honest feedback. And the reason why you need that is because the person who's really close to you knows where you're coming from. The person who kind of knows you but will give you feedback is you don't really know how your reader is going to read this. And so you really want someone to be able to take that and be like, well, this doesn't make sense to me, or here's what I got out of this. And I was kind of shocked a couple of times, like, that's not what I meant. So it was great to be able to go back and change the wording there, understand the flow better. And then these companies that you go through, and Westbow was the same, is they'll do about 25% edit for the book, and that's usually included in your package price. And then to do the rest, 75, to get to the 100%, they'll charge you extra money. And so I was blessed to have a person in my life who went back and edited it for me. All credit due to Sharon Shirley here, is a great family friend. And so she went through and edited the book for me. And so we sat on some calls together and she would walk through, and she was great at helping me with the flow. Not grammar and spelling is pretty easy because Word will do all that checks for you, but it's really the flow. And it's those run-on sentences, and it's the way that you thought you wanted to say something that they'll help you to kind of change your mind and put into the way that makes more sense for a general reader to read this. Because you have to think, who's reading your book? And that was a question she asked me that I never really I thought about, but I hadn't thought about enough. So I would suggest when you first start writing your book too, you think about who's the audience, who's going to be reading this. And for me, I wanted it to be someone who could read it from a young age to someone who can, has been a Christian their whole life, who very much understands what they're doing and is an avid reader. So I mean, like my son who's 7 and who can read, he can read my book. And I wanted that to be the case. So I let Sharon know that. And so her feedback incorporated that. If you can have someone in your life that can do that, it's a way better option, I think. But if you want to go the professional route, I just highly suggest that you have somebody that knows what they're doing edit it. It made a big difference. I didn't realize how many flowing airs and run-on sentences that I had before I had her edit it. So that's the editing process. And then it goes into the production. And this part goes really fast. I mean, my book is right around 90 pages. So I think if you have a little bit more than that, it can take a little bit longer. But it really, in about 6 to 8 weeks, the process from once I had it fully submitted to being on the shelf, per se online, that's all it took. And so they'll do that. They'll send it back to you. You'll make sure you like the way it looks, and then you'll submit it back, and then it's ready. And it's really cool to have that day when they share with you what it's going to look like and where it's going to be, and then they'll produce it and put it in print on demand. And so I didn't really know anything about this, so I'll share a little bit about it. Print on demand is how books are made now, especially when you self-publish, where they'll have a digital copy, whoever you go with, and then they'll send that digital copy to Amazon, to Barnes and Noble, Walmart, if you want to do that. Each company has different places they'll send it. And then you get to go on and you get to see it on Amazon, which is so cool. And then one other cool thing that they do too is they'll make almost every company I talk to will also give you your own website. And so I'll share that here too. So this is a website that they created for me, right? It's a blueprint for the day, starting it God's way. And they'll have their book on there. I'll kind of have a little bit of thing there. And then you can go and order your copy. This one takes you straight to Westbow Press, and you can go get it here. But if I come back to here, right, they'll have about the author page. And this was something that I didn't really had thought about what I needed on about the author, but that's something you can start to think about. This will go on the back of either on the back of the book or on the inside. But this is pretty cool. So this is what the companies will do for you too. And almost every package I looked at had this on there. And then from there, your book's ready. And then it's really about what you want to do. Every package was different. Like I said, you can go really intense on the marketing and get Amazon ads and get different ads on other things you want to do. For me, that just wasn't in the plan for my wife and I when we were talking through this. So we have our own website. So I also have this on my own website. And so like I'll show you here what we did on our own. Is we have it on our own website here, mustardseedfaithinvestments.com, and we have a resource page. So you come up here and go to recommended resources, and then we have it here. And from here, if you click on it, right, I did it straight to Amazon, so people can see it straight on Amazon. And then we also, I think everyone told me, which is really key to do, is to do a blog post on your book. And so if you come down to our blog here, I kind of have a snippet from the book right here. And then I, at the bottom, have where you can buy it through who I published it for, Amazon or on Barnes and Noble. So I think that's really cool. You can, I took this snippet from the book, changed it up a little bit. And then I love to show this off. This is the photo that my wife took for the cover. But writing a blog on it was a great idea. It's something that I had quite a few people talk to me about. So honestly, writing this book was such an awesome experience. I would recommend it if it's something that you've been dreaming about, something that the Lord's put on your heart. I would love to help you through it too. I mean, I just went through this process, so all those ideas are fresh in my head, and would love to help. So reach out to me at info@mustardseedsfaithinvestments.com or head to our website. I'll put the links down here on that, and I hope that this helps you kind of get a glimpse of what it's really like to go through the process of writing and self-publishing a book. Thanks again for all your support, and have a wonderful day.